Excitement is mounting for this year's Kūmara harvest on a small plot of land on the outskirts of Rotorua. It's the home of Kai Rotorua, a volunteer-run food-growing collective set up about 8 years ago to get people enthused about growing their own kai, especially Kūmara. This year there's something new afoot, as producer Sally Round discovered.
I've come to Kai Rotorua, and here we are in a beautiful setting. It's very rolling hills, pretty green.
Very green.
It's the end of summer. I'll get you to introduce yourself.
Ko te arawa tangata, ko te arawa waka, mai make tū ki tongariro, ko Ngāti Wenuku kōpako e tuatu nei. He iwi kōpaki I te Rotorua nui a kahu, I kauria nei e hine moa ki moko ia, kia tū tānekai. Ko whakapaunga kau te maunga, he ruru whenua ki tōku marae o ruamatā, no reira he mihi nāku kia koutou I tēnei rā, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. My name is Te Rangi Kāheki Kiripātea. On my dad's side I am Te Arawa, and on my mum's side I'm rongo mai wahine ke kahungunu for Mahia.
Someone else want to jump on that?
Te Rangi Kāheki is one of the founders of Kai Rotorua, which today is hosting a group of school children from Kaharoa School just up the road. They're here to help plant around the fruit trees and harvest pumpkins. But it's the Kūmara still underground that I've come to find out more about. Te Rangi Kāheki's father was born on Mokoia Island in Lake Rotorua, a perfect place for Kūmara growing all year round with its all-day sun and volcanic soil.
Back in that day, in their day, the water was pristine and was wonderful to use for growing kai on the island. But the most important thing is that it's thermal over there. And Kūmara, without heat, just don't grow. Anything under 15 degrees and they die off.
Te Rangi Kāheki explains that Kūmara, like people, also have whakapapa, genealogy or lineage. He'll tell us more about that later. But we're heading to a small building, newly built, about 3 metres square and 3 metres high, with a pitched roof. It's made of a new material called hempcrete, which they think will help overcome some of the challenges of storing Kūmara.
Back in the day, they even on Mokoia Island, they placed their Kūmara in what they call rua pits, and that's all underground. And there are many challenges with the storage of Kūmara, and that comes down to things like heat. It comes down to things like cooler temperatures, fluctuating temperatures, insects, all sorts of things can break that cycle. So it requires a facility that provides for all of those challenges around the storage of Kūmara.
It's got kind of a pleasant smell too. Can I smell the hemp?
I was only in there for 5 minutes and I had to drive. Oh, goodness.
Making me feel heady. It's like straw that's all been glued together with lime?
With lime, yes. Yeah, my understanding of it is that when you strip the inside of the hemp stalk, you pull all that out and then you put it through what they call a decorticator. And that machine breaks it all up, and it breaks it down into this here, all these fine fibres that we've got there, pretty strong fibres too. And then it's bagged up, and then it's brought onto the site, and then that's when the mixing of it starts. It begins to take shape.
How do they pack it down? What sort of tools do they use?
Oh, just a couple of ramming rods,
And then get up on a ladder and go higher and higher and keep packing it down.
Yeah, and keep packing it down.
It's got a lovely feel. The sound quality is great.
It's wonderful.
And it's cool. Now, is that one of the qualities of this material?
And this is one of it's numerous qualities with this hempcrete. For the purpose that we want is for storage of Kūmara. It's perfect. And before we built this, we had a large number of discussions, and probably took us a year to really come to terms with, hey, we think that we can try this, and we think we'll go and get some funding to do that.
How much did it cost to build this small space?
Around about $6,000-7,000.
Now, this is going to be unusual in that the Kūmara is going to be stored above ground.
Yes. There's a number of options. You can harvest it and then leave it out in the sun for 5 days to what they call harden off. And that allows your sugars to start to settle. And once that process has gone through, which is about 3 to 5 days, you can then wrap it in newspaper, and that's a sort of an insulation. And you can place that in a dark place in your whare, as long as it's nice and still, temperature's got an even level. My mother used to put it under her bed. And then, of course, there was the burying of them, the placement of them inside of the Rua Kūmara. Today, we've taken into account all the dampness and all the heat and all the fluctuation, and we think that this will keep that level temperature, the evenness will come about.
Here in the hempcrete whare, once shelving's installed, the Kūmara will be laid out, so it's easy to see if any are going off. Although it's important they're well sorted beforehand, so bad ones don't compromise the good.
We'll put our doors on here.
And what are the doors going to be like?
I'll show you them when we get down the... well, they're not doors, there's one door.
One door.
It's all fitting in here.
And you have some plans for carving?
Yes, if we come back here now, when Te Arawa came over on the waka and they brought the Kūmara with them, her name was Whakaotirangi, and she's one of our tūpuna ancestresses. And Whakaotirangi was tasked with the safe passage of the Kūmara seedling to Aotearoa. And so whenever an event like that occurs in Te Ao Māori, there's always generally a whakatauki that goes with it, or it's a proverbial way of addressing it all. And that whakatauki is te kete roki a whakaotirangi. And what that translates to is the secure basket of whakaotirangi, which she had tied around her waist. And she had all the seedlings in that. She's going to become our guardian for our hempcrete. So we're bringing together new technology with our tūpuna ancestresses. And we're going to carve it in such a way that it tells that story, it narrates that story of the arrival. So that when people come here, we've got something else to add to our narrative and our kōrero. And I think that's a fantastic piece for people, especially when we get other iwi come in and they just want to come over for a nuki, for a nosy, They look at it, oh gee, this is a bit different, That's what makes them stand off a little bit. They go, oh, great. Oh, whakaotirangi, oh yes, So there's a number of different aspects and different ways of looking at the whole thing. And of course, making her as the guardian of it, she brings that spiritual, that wairua, that historical mātauranga, all of those elements she brings to our work that we're doing here with the Kūmara.
Your race who can push
See, Kūmara is, I guess it's such a forgotten kai, and yet it's probably the most important kai on our food chain, and particularly for Māori. Sally, you can't connect a Māori to a carrot. They hear the kōrero and they go, oh, boring. What do I want to plant a carrot for? The minute you start talking about the Kūmara, everybody in the room sits up and listens. There's a connection that Māori have had since the arrival of the waka and before the waka to the Kūmara. The Kūmara is in our whakapapa. It's in our DNA. It's in our paki waitara. It's in our mōteatea. In the early 1800s, this mōteatea was composed, and it speaks about the Kūmara. And I'll do one verse of it. Pōpō e tangi ana tama ki te kai mana, waiho me tiki ake ki te paua hau kai, hei a mai, te paka ke ki uta hei wai iu no tamaki a ho mai e tō tipuna e uenuku whakarongo ko te Kūmara. Ko pari nui te rā, ka iki mata te tapu ai o Tangaroa, ka whai mata te tapu ai o Tangaroa. It was what we call an ori-ori, a mechanism to help babies to sleep, but also to remember the whakapapa, so they continually sang that to their pipi. I have to say, there are 11 verses to that. And if I did the whole thing, I'd probably put you to sleep too.
While we've been chatting, the children and other volunteers have been getting to work. Kai Rotorua was set up in 2017, growing traditional Māori crops. And the charitable trust has grown from there.
There he is. Quick Caesar.
How are you?
Also among those visiting today, Byron Austin, whose Byron Grows YouTube channel is tapping into worldwide interest into an indigenous Brazilian food growing method.
So my name is Byron, and I basically help people grow food forests here in New Zealand, Australia, other parts of the world, and I do a lot of research in it. It's a really specific thing called syntropic agroforestry, and it's different to kind of like permaculture food forests in that you're using ecological succession to rebuild soil and make it a productive forest. And so that's what we're doing here. This is going to be a really awesome example for New Zealand, especially in a colder climate. A lot of what we see, these examples are like subtropical and, examples that aren't maybe so relatable to people who live in colder areas. And so it's going to be a really cool example of what's possible, how much food you can produce on a small piece of land in a cold climate, and how to get the community engaged.
So tell us what stage the piece of land is up to and how big it is.
Well, right now it's just basically grass. We've put black plastic to kind of kill the grass for now. We're going to put a cover crop, which is basically just fast-growing things that will help to improve the soil. And then in the end of winter, early spring, we're going to start planting a huge diversity of species. We've got support plants that we're just going to prune to feed the soil. We've got vegetables, berries, fruit trees, nut trees, timber, everything all mixed in, and medicinals.
That's all going in one lot.
Exactly. And the reason it works is because they're different life cycle and strata. So like life cycle is, raspberries produce in the first year, first 5 years, but then the fruit trees start to take that space. And then after year 15, the nut trees and the timber trees kind of start to take over. And so it's this really beautiful thing where from like day 30, you can be productive all the way out to year 30.
But back to the Kūmara, and let's meet Yumiko Kawano, who's been with Kai Rotorua since it started.
I had a vision about the Kūmara project before involving Kai Rotorua.
You had a vision about
I
this?
had a vision about it. It's maybe vision is starting was about 2012, 13 around the time. And because of the Kūmara, or just satsumaimo in Japanese, sweet potato is a big culture. We eat all the time. We eat rice as well as we eat satsumaimo, the sweet potato in Maori in Kūmara. We grow everywhere in Japan. It's from up north to south. And I used to work at the Mokoia Island. So I hear from the Maori people about used to be grow the Kūmara on the island.
And this is the island in the middle of Lake
Rotorua. I was doing a tour guide for the Japanese group. So I hear this story from the local Maori. And I just questioned to them why we don't see the Kūmara farm anymore, because it's how the Maori people brought the Kūmara into this country. So they have some similar story I linked to my country, Japan. So this my grandmother was saying after Second War, all destroyed, and it's only the vegetable grow in Japan was sweet potato.
That was all that was left after the war,
That's
the only crop.
Only the vegetable they can grow on the disaster land.
On the disaster land. So it was all devastated.
And it's only the food they ate on those time. So those age people, even they hate to see the Kūmara or sweet potato because of they've been only be able to eat sweet potato that time.
So they were sick of it?
Sick of eating, yeah, and looking. So there was no rice, nothing has been grown on the land, but sweet potato is only be able to grow on the land. So some reason it stuck my head for that story. Don't know why, but it's like on my childhood after school. It's always is my mother cook like steam Kūmara on the table, and this is our snack to eat.
So here you are, heavily involved in Kūmara in Rotorua.
So I did ask a lot of local people, why don't we see the Kūmara farm in this city? Everybody said, oh, this is too cold. I see in Japan we have a similar climate, and we grow from north to south. And I'm sure that we'll be able to grow Kūmara again. And then I met Terangi Kahike at the youth center. And we were just talking about this conversation. Then he said, oh, come along, today we are going to start in the Kūmara project. That's how they involved in Kai Rotorua. That was 2017.
And now it's much more than just Kūmara, isn't it?
Yeah, just much more.
But it started out as a project for Kūmara, for growing Kūmara.
Yes, that is our connection to the people.
And what does it mean to you now? How much time does it take up?
Yeah, so I now is living on my site, and also that's one of the reasons the project pop up. I have a son with Down syndrome, and I just wanted him to be involved in the community organization or something to do with land, and for there's something he can do, he can be part of. So he's coming here every Monday, and with care support person. So this is even he's not living with me. That is some connection we're working on together with in Whenua here.
Terangi Kaheke is standing over the Kūmara beds. There are 6 of them stretched out under black polythene, 3 rows within each bed. The Kūmara shoots, or tipu, were planted just over 4 months ago in spring, according to the Maramataka, the traditional Māori lunar calendar.
The phase of the moon was Rako Nui, and that's the full moon. And I always plant on Rako Nui, and there's a good reason for that. We know it's going to be a beautiful day. We know that if we plant on that day, our Kūmara is going to be anything between 600 grams at the small end, and the biggest one we've harvested at Te Pū, our orchard, was 4.2 kilo. Huge.
Wow.
And the reason for that is that when it comes time to harvest and we've got all our kids in the scraping all the soil away and the Kūmara starts to reveal itself to them, all you get up and down those rows where the kids are is, wow, look at this. And you want that because that image of that Kūmara becomes indelibly etched in their minds and they will have that connection to that Kūmara. In the rows where the adults are harvesting, it's a different language. Oh, far out, look at this. And I've had, kids come back to me and say, oh, I went home and told my kuia last night, I know how to plant Kūmara fire. And she goes, and I said, what'd your grandmother say? Don't you tell me how to plant Kūmara, I know how to plant Kūmara, So that's really good because there's conversations that go on, eh?
Should we bend down here and have a look see what stage they're up to?
No.
No?
I don't do that until a week before we're ready to harvest. And we're harvesting again on Rako Nui, and I don't disturb them before then. If you had been here a couple of weeks ago, these were really green.
These are the shoots and the leaves above.
Yeah, that's where it is in there.
Oh, yeah.
And
just having a look through the plastic. So the plastic keeps it nice and warm and mulched.
Yes. And when we go to harvest, we know that it'll still be warm, and there'll be a little bit of moisture there.
How has this season been? I mean, have you had dry weather here?
We've had very dry weather, and I think that this crop here is going to be quite challenging. Before we went to plant, it poured, and I mean poured, and all this was underwater, and all our volunteers couldn't help it, but they were sending me all these clips saying, look, Matua, what are we going to do tomorrow? Because tomorrow was the planting day. And I got hoha and I turned my phone off. And the next day was absolutely clear and wonderful. Rako Nui, you see. So I always have faith in the Maramataka.
We're a few weeks off, aren't we, as we get up from the bed? We're a few weeks off harvesting these. How many people will you get into harvest?
Well, I've sent out the email to say that our harvest is on the 11th of April, Friday 11th of April. And so far for the feedback I've had is from 23 people. And I expect that others will just turn up. They won't tell me, they'll just turn up on the day.
What sort of tools do you use?
Our hands. Try not to use, if we use anything, we use forks on the outside just to loosen the soil. No more, but not to dig and lift it up.
You don't want to cut into the Kūmara.
That's right. Harvesting is one of the hardest things to get people to understand the delicate nature of it, because they get so excited about it. And they get to handle them roughly, because they're excited. Even adults, even after saying so many times, you just got to handle this with care. It's like having a pepe in your company.
What happens after you bring them out of the earth?
So we just leave them in the soil, place them in the soil and let them harden off in the sun. The sun comes over, I said earlier, it's a hardening off process, and that's helping to lift the sugar levels. And we leave it there for about 3 to 5 days, and then we take them away and get them ready for storage. From here we'll place them in wheelbarrows, and then we'll take them up to the hempcrete storage shed up there.
Do you wash them at all?
No, never ever wash them. Leave the soil on them, and if you're going to want to take the soil off, you just brush it off lightly. In fact, you want to keep moisture away from it, so you're defeating the purpose if you start to wash it.
The children are winding up their visit. The wheelbarrows and tools are packed away. The pumpkins, all colours and sizes, neatly stacked, to be shared or sold at market. The funds, along with donor support, help the charity keep up its work, supporting schools to set up their own gardens, holding workshops and connecting the community with nature. Papatuanuku. It's something that reflects Te Rangi Kāheki's own story, particularly when it comes to Kūmara.
As a kid, when my dad and his mother and his whānau moved off Mokoia Island, they moved straight across to where the Rotorua airport is. That's where the Papakainga was before they took it for the airport in 1960. We had an orchard there, and we had a big marakai there. And Dad used to grow kai there, and he used to make us get out and harvest, and I just hated it, I'm never ever going to get into it. I never ever knew that I would be brought back into the cycle again. And I put that down to that Kūmara vine. It goes in loops, and there have been loops on the way through my journey where the Kūmara has popped up from time to time, but now it's popped up and has become secure. I'm absolutely loving reconnecting to Papatuanuku and getting our people to reconnect to Papatuanuku.
Te Rangi Kāheki Kiripātia, the project's manager and one of the founders of Kai Rotorua. You also heard from Yumiko Kawano and Byron Austin. That story was produced by Sally Round.